Buying your first home is exciting, but it can also feel very overwhelming. There are so many questions, and today we are answering some of the biggest ones first-time buyers ask. I'm Lauren, and this is Raul with the Schrader Group. So let's jump in, shall we? Home buying can be overwhelming. Where should a first-time home buyer start?
Yeah, I think for home buyers, especially a first time, I think you need to get with a licensed qualified agent. And when I say qualified agent, make sure that they're actually in the business and they're actually out there working every single day, because I think that's a big part of it, right? Because we see trends happen pretty quickly here in San Antonio. So I think getting with an agent, number one, is key. And then finally, the second part of that would be to get a trusted lender to help you navigate through the lending portion of it, because I think it's really key to have a really good team with the lender and agent, because it makes the buyer's experience so much easier because everyone's talking the same language and everyone's on the same page.
So what is the difference between being pre-qualified and pre-approved?
Yeah, so a prequal is essentially just kind of getting a little sneak peek behind the curtain to see, hey, you do have a job. This is how much you quote unquote say you make a year. The credit checks off. You don't have anything, any kind of big delinquencies. But it's just like I'm going off of your word. The lender looks at it, everything checks off. It looks pretty good as long as you can duplicate and give me all the documentation. So on the flip side, the pre-approval is going to be more of, hey, you've validated the fact that I got all my W-2s or your 1099s, whatever that might be, any kind of disabilities from the government or any other kind of income that you're receiving. But you're actually saying that, hey, this is my job. I'm still employed. I got my income verified. All the things are in place. So then now a pre-qual is good to start the process, but a pre-approval is even stronger if you're in that business. So when you're looking to buy, if you have a pre-approval, you're going to probably get more serious attention to your offers and listings when we go to look and put the house under contract. Pre-qual is just fine, but a pre-approval is just that Willy Wonka golden ticket, to be honest with you. It is just that much better because now there's no more what ifs in the process.
So how much do you need for a down payment?
Yeah, so I mean, the old adage is everyone thinks that in order to buy a house, you got to have at least 20% down, and that used to be the mindset, but things have changed dramatically, and that was based off of conventional loan. So FHA, the minimum is 3.5% down. Conventional is typically around 5%, but I've seen some get into 3% with different kind of programs and things like that, which is a huge savings, because if you're looking at, a $300,000 house, 5% is only 15 grand to get the ball rolling. Or on a FHA, you're looking at 10,500. So I mean, the barrier to entry is a little bit easier on those programs. FHA is probably the easiest one to get into. It's a government-backed program that helps first-timers normally get into the gate and get into home ownership. But then, Military City USA, right? BA is very, very big here. And that's a zero down program. So that really helps out based on your entitlements and things like that. But VA, USDA programs out there, there's some grant programs out there that allow for down payment assistance or zero down, which is nice.
Yeah.
And then the Schrader Group offers all kinds of things. If you're stuck in a lease, we could help you with the lease buyout, or we could do some sort of buyer's assistance. If you're looking at, relocating, but you don't have, washer, dryer, fridge, or something like that, we can help out on that side. So there's just a lot of programs that come in to help first-time buyers kind of get to the forefront and say, hey, hold your hand up and say, I'm ready to look at what this process looks like, so that we're able to get to, turn the page and getting them ready to get into their new property.
Right, because I'm sure they have so many questions, and you want to find, a realtor that can...
100%. I mean, there's just so many things that go on, and people think you just go look for a house. And
we had so many questions.
Well, and it's hard.
Asking for a friend.
Yeah, well, and that sometimes happens. And I think the big part of it is once we figure out what we want to do we want to go to new house? Do we want to go pre-existing home? I still recommend after we've gotten the offer accepted, get a home inspection, right? Because we need to figure out what's going on with the house, right? A lot of agents out there will talk about, just save your 3.5% or save your 5% down, but they never speak about closing costs, right?
Right.
And I think that's another portion that needs to be brought up, because closing costs could be anywhere between 2 to 3%. So on a $300,000 house, anywhere from 6 to 9 grand that you weren't expecting to pay.
Right. That was my next question. Yes. What other costs?
So I mean, if you have those costs built in, you did your job, you saved your 3.5%, you got your $10,500 to put down, but then all of a sudden I come to you and say, hey, by the way, you need buyer closing costs. You're gonna be like, I don't have that kind of money. So what would happen next? We would have to ask the sellers for some concessions in which they can help us ease the pain of getting into the house or ease the burden. But and then once we get all that negotiated, we get the inspector to come in and, just give us that peace of mind of saying, hey, this house is really, really good. There's no big, red flags on it, because if we see a red flag, as much as you might love the house, I'm still going to say maybe this one isn't for us. And these are the reasons why. It might be a money pit. Nobody wants to buy their first home and it'd be a money pit. Number two, it might just be one of those things that you're going to have deferred maintenance forever, right? You don't want to be in that. Or maybe the roof's on its way out, the AC's on its way out, everything's seen better days. I want to make sure that if we're taking a first-time buyer, we're giving them the concierge service of saying, we're going to be with you from start point A all the way to point Z to make sure that they get that whole experience. But yeah, I think that there's a big difference when we're looking in the market.
So would you recommend pre-owned or new construction?
So that's the biggest ticket item right now. I think it depends on our market and depends on what the buyer is trying to achieve. Because if the buyer is trying to achieve affordability, and I'll be honest with you right now, buyers in the new field construction are giving the biggest breaks right now because they're getting incentives. They could have a 4.99 interest rate. They could have a buy down interest rate. They could get closing costs already kind of built into the package. So sometimes that might be just an easier barrier of entry. But then again, sometimes locations free. And if you can't get inside 410 because there's no more houses being built, that might be another conversation. But understanding what the buyer needs really determines, okay, are we going to look at pre-owns because maybe your budget's from, 175 to 250 and there's not a whole bunch in the area you're looking for? Or if I could stretch you out 2 or 3 miles, we might have a little bit of a different opportunity to find something that might be more in, even though we're paying a little bit more, but because of the incentives bringing it down the interest rate, we're able to get apples to apples comparison on price month.
Right.
So, I mean, there's just a lot of barriers, but, new homes come with warranties and those are kind of peace of mind. You don't have to worry about the unknowns.
No, you're so good. Will you be my realtor? So what happens after my offer is accepted?
Yeah, so we went out, we fit the pavement, we turned every stone we can. The offer finally gets accepted. We submitted, everything's great. The next thing you'll have is in the next 3 days, you're going to want to put down what's called earnest monies, right? So you put the earnest money, that's just your intent to buy the house and take the house off the market, right? If we're going pre-owned, you'll also have what's called an option period, which is a time period to where we get to do our due diligence. It's for a nominal fee of probably $10 to $15, $20 a day. But it buys you the opportunity to be protected in case a pre-owned home doesn't check out the way we want it to be, right? On the flip side, if we're looking at a new construction home, then that earnest money, there is no real due diligence period. It's kind of like you go through the process, but that earnest money sticks to it as long as, inspections and things are in check. We order the home inspection. I don't care whether you're getting a new house or a pre-owned house. I always say peace of mind is worth a lot more than concern. And that's one of the things that is probably the best $500 you ever spend. We get through that inspection. If we're on the pre-owned side, we'll go ahead and during our option period, we'll go ahead and negotiate the repairs, what we're requesting to be addressed or repaired. On the new construction side, it'll be one of those things we just hand over to the builder and say, hey, these are recommendations from our inspector. Please have these looked at and advise as accordingly. And they'll go through it and they'll fix all the little stuff. Doesn't matter what you buy. There's always going to be some type of judgment as far as I think this could be done this way, or I think this could be fixed in this way. And I think that both of the ways would be good because then they look at the report and say, okay, I want to make sure that all your needs are met. And I think that's really good because it's easier than us saying, hey, this thing's broken. When you have an inspector to say, hey, it's broken, it's a little bit easier of a conversation. But let's say we get through all that, the lender goes ahead and orders the appraisal. As long as we meet value, yay, we get to continue going through, and then we start the process of ensuring that any repairs that were created have been completed before we do our final walkthrough. The final walkthrough will be that thing where we kind of go in and check out everything. If it's a pre-owned home, we want to make sure that the oven's still there, the microwave and all the appliances that were part of the house are still there. We also want to make sure there's no holes in the sheetrock from when they were moving out, and then vice versa. When we go walk on the new house, new construction home, we make sure that all the things that they wrote down saying that they would fix or address have been done, paint chips, any kind of baseboard imperfections, things like that. And then, we're headed our way to closing day probably within 72 hours or so of that timeline. We've already gotten our final disclosures from the lender, and we're headed down to the table. And as long as everything, all those 30,000 steps or whatnot evened out and everything made sense, we walk to closing, you sign. About an hour after that, you get your keys probably once everything's funded, and then now you're the new happy homeowner. So a lot of processes, but a lot of things happen after the
and very normal to feel nervous on showing your first.
And that's why it's key to be with someone that knows the process, that does this on a daily basis, because it helps navigate and say, hey, take the emotion out of it. This is part of the process. It's a marathon, not a sprint, and it takes a little bit of time to get there.
Yeah. So anything else that you?
There's a lot.
Laundry list.
Well, let's just say we do get under contract. We're getting, everything working towards getting that final loan approval. Don't go wild and start refurnishing a house you don't own yet, right? Don't take out new credit cards. Don't take on new debt. Don't go buy a Harley Davidson or anything like that.
Because people have done that, and then
they have, and unfortunately, we joke about it today, but 2 weeks or a week before closing, they run a repool, and they see that there's actually some new credit that's been pulled. So then they ask questions about it. And if that offsets your debt to income ratios, and sometimes it's a couple of days before closing that they pull this, that could ruin the whole game plan that we had. So sometimes that's just not a good idea. And ask your agent, ask your lender, hey, I'm thinking about doing this. Will it mess with my ratios? And if they give you the blessing, well, then I think you're in good shape. And I would defer that to the lender so I get out of the hot water, right? But rule of thumb is don't buy anything that you can't afford and can't pay cash for at the time. And make sure you have your down payments and everything in play.
I can't remember if you were the one that told me this story or somebody else, but there was a couple that purchased the house and they were getting close to closing. And then he ended up buying an engagement ring and proposing.
Oh, yeah.
And was that you that told me?
It wasn't me, but I've heard that story because it's happened many, many times. And yeah, the thought was great. But unfortunately, that payment and that debt wasn't, and that messed up his ratios. And that not only did it mess up his ratios, it brought his DTI. It went higher because now he has an extra monthly payment, but then it also was a ding on his credit. So it was a double whammy on that side. But one thing is you're investing in yourself, right? You're investing in your future. You're trying to create that legacy for you and your family. And making these steps is probably the easiest way to do it because you could rent all you want in life, right? Say your mortgage is $2,000, well, $300 or $400 a month goes to your principal. If you're renting for $2,000, well, that's $2,000 is going to a landlord that you'll never see again. So multiply that by 12, that's 24 grand. And you'll never see, rather than getting some of that money back, getting some of that knocked off all your principal, and actually getting that roll value of anywhere between 3 to 6% on average in our area to where your house will appreciate. I mean, it's just investing in your future and just trying to, do what's good for everyone in your household.
Yes. I wonder if she said yes after that, but.
Well, you probably said yes, but then he probably had a pretty good argument right after saying, what do you mean we're not getting a house? So I guess trust issues.
Yeah, but. If you have any questions about home ownership or getting into your first home, we would love to help. Please subscribe to our channel to learn more.
Thank you all so much. Y'all have a blessed day and we'll talk to you soon.